Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Empowering Women in Chiropractic show. My name is Dr. Natalie Boscia, and I'll be your host today. I'm super excited today to have a really good friend of mine. Her name is Brandy Kinnear. Brandy has an amazing brain when it comes to marketing, and she's been in the industry marketing for natural health practitioners for many, many years. Her and I share a multitude of projects together. She's my go-to person when I have an idea, and she'll tell me if it is a good idea or not. So today, what we're going to get Brandy to chat on are the trends that are happening for 2022. So exciting to have her on the show. Hi, Brandy.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Here you are.
Thank you
Awesome.
for having me.
So how would we, give you your official title? Because I know that you do a lot, but I guess marketing strategist.
Digital marketing strategist and practice growth consultant is typically what I go by. And it's really because it's a combination of helping practitioners understand the infrastructure they need to grow their business and then using marketing as a tool to amplify that. So I feel like you can't really do one without the other.
It is a mouthful, though. Awesome. So, Brandy, tell us what's rolling in for 2022, because like I said, you have such a good pulse on what's happening in our industry, and every year I know you're always ahead of the trend. So, I'll let you, take the lead here and share with us what has been hot maybe for 2021 rolling into 2022 and what you're foreseeing in terms of where the strengths are going to be.
So I have to start by saying it's a pretty exciting time for the natural health industry. And I would say probably more exciting than it has been in the 15 years that I've been in this space. And I'll tell you why. When every year I sit down and I look at the trends from 2021, I look at the statistics, I see what worked and what didn't, and I help my clients with predictions for where to spend their time and money and growth opportunities in 2022. So when I sat down and did this report just a week or so ago, probably a couple of weeks ago, I realized that the numbers are showing such huge trends for success and awareness in our industry than ever before. And so, one of the top ones that I'd probably have to highlight first, because I say it should have its own reality show with all of its popularity, is the sale of nutritional supplements. So typically, an industry would have a growth of between 5 to 7%, and it would be typical in the supplement industry annually. So they would predict annual growth was pretty small percentages. The supplement industry grew at 24% in 2021. And if we look
Wow.
at 2020 being the beginning of the pandemic, so this is when everybody's kind of freaking out and they're starting to take some vitamins because they're realizing that they need to start to proactively look at what they can do to prevent this crazy monster headed our way. And by 2021 you would have assumed that's either died out or stayed as a trend. And so when we see such a massive growth in the second year post pandemic, if we can ever get post pandemic, that's a side joke, but in any case, we move on. The 2021 year had a more massive growth than 2020. And so what we understand from the analysts and the statistics is that there's a clear adoption to prevention. We've never before in 15 years that I've been in this industry felt like people actually understand what prevention looks like for their health. And, it's really an exciting time because what it showed us and what it's showing in the numbers is that 80% of the people, and they've done surveys and they've taken a look at all the purchase behaviors, 80% of people that started supplements during this time said they're going to continue with them. We don't zinc and vitamin C and vitamin D and multivitamins. They're no longer fringe things that,
Mhm.
our conventional system is balking at. They're now home staple goods with consistent purchasing. So I think, primarily that's something really exciting. And whether you believe in supplementation or not, it's here to stay. It's growing rapidly and it should be on your radar in your practice if it's not now.
Mm. So how would you say someone, let's say, we have different type of, chiropractors in term of how we practice. So if, let's say someone doesn't have it, doesn't have supplementation in their office versus somebody who already has that in place, any tips for those people?
Well, it kind of leads me to the second big trend that has happened with the numbers that we see coming out of 2021 is the adoption of online sales. So again, typical growth curve, minimal percentage annually for any category of goods, 16% growth for of supplements in 2021. So out of all of the categories of things sold online in 2021, supplement sales had the largest growth curve. So if you're not selling supplements in your practice now, you've got some things to think about. And I'll tell you, the most popular products were foundational supplements that people already understand and believe in the benefits of. And they're buying them from big box retailers and places where the quality is not going to be guaranteed. There is a lot of lack of regulation in some of these product lines that are out there on stores like Amazon and these other big box retailers. So if you're not selling them, this is really something to look at as an additional revenue stream in your practice to be able to own that narrative and be able to have the conversations with your patients about foundational health and add it into the value of the quality of the care that you provide. And then number two is if you are selling them, are you maximizing technology to look at things like online stores? And there are some things that you have to understand about. You can't just sell other companies' products in an online store. There's some layers of, things that you need to understand in order to get started. But we look at leaders in the space, the leader in the space, Amazon, and the auto ship capabilities. And what a lot of my practitioners are doing and what we have been teaching them how to do is set up foundational products and have them on auto ship so that your patients are actually buying them consistently from you and having the ease of delivery to their home monthly so that you actually also have a recurring monthly stream of revenue and they're staying loyal to the quality of the brand that you are selling in your practice and very well could be your own brand of products. So if you aren't selling them, it's time to take a look at, is this part of the $62 billion a year industry that I'd like to participate in? And if you're not, you're already participating, but you're not maximizing, you need to start looking at how can you have the right communication strategy, the right storytelling behind it, make sure that it's part of your onboarding, make sure it's part of your communication within your staff and your entire marketing structure within your business. Because as I said before, it's not about whether or not people are buying them. It's just who they're buying them from at this point, right?
Yeah. And I think a key point is that it can be the foundational one. It doesn't have to, jump in hormone and detox and all that. It is truly all about the foundational. And I think it's important for doctors to understand that. And very good point that our patients are buying these supplements somewhere else. And I would feel really bad if they got poor quality, not even knowing. And it's still pretty sad how people are not aware of the quality. And even just the basic supplementation, this is something I ask patients all the time. And in 2022, when I see people on no supplements at all, I'm like, dang, you haven't been watching the news too hard on the health aspect. So,
Well,
they are buying it. So why not buy
and
quality products?
if we look at the things that affect the outcomes in chiropractic, it's people's lifestyle. So it's nutrition, it's stress management, it's sleep, and then there's ongoing inflammation. So if you can help to curb any of those four categories or all of those four categories with a base set of supplements, that's the homework that they need to do that they probably aren't doing at home anyway. I also think it's interesting to note that people spend money on products differently than they spend money on services. So it almost falls into a different bucket of expenses that people are willing to spend their hard-earned dollars on. So I think often practitioners might be thinking, well, I'm already having a tough time getting them to commit to care plans if you do that, or add on this or add on that. But it falls and products fall into a different category. So it's interesting to see how many people are willing to buy something that's tangible good that they can take home and consume versus the conversation about additional services.
And this is so true. And if you go back 3 or 4 years ago, this was not the case, but you're so right that this is almost a different category. And I know, well, with Brandy's help, I know I've integrated many kind of funnels into my practice for stress, for anti-inflammation. And I literally have patients self-identify, like, what do you need help with? And then we kind of have an automated process, and then it's no work off me because I created once, and patients are just loving it. That right now more than ever, no one seem, in the traditional medicine world, seem to be talking about prevention and keeping a strong immune system and so forth. So they're happy that someone is addressing their stress, their inflammation. And if you have the tools that you've created once and you can implement, it truly is a game changer. I can see how happy my patients are when I'm giving them these tools.
Well, and I think that kind of leads into another trend that I think is news and noteworthy for our chat here today, which is the adoption by the conventional medical community of telehealth. So, because the pandemic really forced people to stay at home in a lot of places, it has changed consumer behavior in what they want to do and what the practitioners are able to offer as it pertains to visits with their doctor. So while it might hold true for certain specialties and family doctors a little more so than other aspects of, let's say a surgeon and post-op appointments, all of that kind of stuff has to be done in person. But there's been surveys of communities of whether or not they would continue to see their doctor through telehealth. And there's numbers up to 18% that would say they would continue with it. So what would have taken us 30 years to transform people from coming in practice to seeing a practitioner online, if anybody is, looking at virtual care in their practice and thinking, well, it's going to be really hard to get people to adopt this new model, the pandemic has kind of sealed that deal for us, and it's now part of, average consumer behavior. And the things that are, I think, that are noteworthy there as well is if you are offering some level of care, understand that the customers are expecting it as part of a better journey for them. So while we miss out on that energy exchange, that in-person, like, human connection that you would have from somebody coming to see you, you've got to start looking at ways to use technology and email and apps and texting and things like that to be able to grow that relationship with them, because you miss out on that. So while it's growing, it's being adopted, it does force us to look at our practices a little bit differently and say, do I have the right customer journey to support my patients that now want to see me virtually? So there's good and bad, but the bad is always just, hey, maybe it's time to little revisit what you're doing in practice to make sure that it's up to speed with what people want. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the demands from the population are what make the changes in all of these trends. Another one that's really interesting that is the healthcare practitioners in the conventional space have been so backlogged, they've had to start giving patients apps and tools to use at home. So there's a doctor, and this was all written up in the Wall Street Journal, and they calling it the DIY healthcare movement, where there's people that are getting recommended by their family practitioner or their endocrinologist to use an app to track their migraines, or to do a first line colon test at home, or to be using sleep tools and calming apps to be able to manage their own health. They just don't have time to see all these patients, and they need to give them care. So now our conventional health system is recommending health tech tools and apps that people can do on their own. It's breeding this new type of DIY healthcare person. And, they're starting to access testing that they can do online, looking at their vitamin and nutrients and, all of the deficiencies that might have, and becoming more empowered that, maybe actually I can do some of this on my own.
Yeah, yeah, and it is so true that more and more people are looking at their blood test results, or they have access to it and they want to understand. And I know I was a bit skeptical at first. I'm like, oh, this is going to take me a lot of time, and I was so shocked of how it actually saved me time, and I ended up building stronger relationship with patients as opposed to consuming more of my time. And it's like I said, patients are so thankful that you have that extra piece to help support them. And at the end of the day, we all want to see better results with our patients. So what they do outside of our office is almost as important as, well, they're both important than the adjustment itself, but the lifestyle aspect is huge.
Well, and I think being aware of the fact that people are doing more of this and accessing more of this on their own is a clear indicator of where things are going, and you being able to adapt based on that is crucial, because if we're not versatile and we're not changing, we're staying the same and we're getting left behind. Another thing that I thought was pretty huge is the amount of digital health investments that were put into the US in 2021. So health tech, digital-based US companies secured double the amount of funding. What's my number? $29.1 billion were invested into digital health tech by investors in 2021, double that of the year before. And some of the companies that are big on this kind of chain, the larger groups that received sort of bulks of some of this funding is Noom, which is a weight loss company. So it's an online weight loss company. There's one called Ro, which is an app that connects conventional practitioners with patients, you know, prescribing, delivery, all of that through an app. And then there's Mind Valley, which is mind-based stress management tools. So there's some pretty big things happening in the tech space that I think we either look at how can we incorporate some of those to our own patients, or look at how can we use maybe our own app or some version of an app in our practice so that we can take advantage of this new trend of people actually wanting to be able to access data about themselves, track their health without having to have anybody else involved.
Yeah, no, it's exciting because you and I both love technology, and to me, I love my Oura Ring. I love monitoring. I love tracking. I have these conversations with patients, and I think it's exciting that they want to get more involved, and also that we should not assume our patients have their vitamins dialed out. Just this week, my web designer got sick, and I asked her, she was having a hard time getting back on her feet. I said, "What vitamins are you taking?" And she just showed me the multi from, a brand that I won't name. And I'm like, "Are you serious? Like, that's all you're taking?" "Okay, let me send you the link to my shopping cart. I'm going to drop some stuff, and then I'm done." Like, she'll order it, and then it's shipped to her house. And I almost felt horrible that I've been working with this woman for 10 years, and her vitamin regimen was that horrible. I almost feel like I failed her on that. So the easy access and the ease of doing this is has changed so much. So I know some chiropractors may say, "Oh, I don't want to do any supplements. I want to have straight chiropractic." And maybe for you, that's, the style. But like I said, people are excited to be supported in other ways because, as Brandy mentioned, it's now two different basket of their income. And I thought that too 5 years ago. It's more important to me that the patient gets on a regular care plan. I don't want to dilute, but I don't even think that way anymore because it truly is two different baskets of expenses for the patient.
And what I
Anything
find
else to add, Brandy?
Yeah, what I find interesting as well is because I get a 30,000-foot view of what's going on in the industry, because I have clients from across North America doing all different types of care in this space, is the patients are actually coming in and asking for more advice on nutrition and supplementation now because awareness has actually grown throughout North America and globally. And so if they're coming to you and asking you, and your position is, "I don't believe in them," or "I have nothing to say about them," it just, how does it bode well for the relationship with the patient? So even if you weren't and didn't and don't believe, there is this influx of a more educated, more aware, more preventative based group of people that are coming to you as a trusted supplier of health. You're on their health team, you're one of their health people.
Yeah.
And so I think it's no longer an opportunity for us to sit back and say, "Well, that's not my jam," but really more about how can I help support my patients, whether that's just by educating myself a bit more, whether that's by supplying them myself, whether that's offering them an app or a dispensary or some other way to get high quality products where they're not going to buy something and have it sit on the shelf because they don't notice any changes. Educate people about why things are actually necessary and why they should continue to take it so they can get the results. I mean, you can see some pretty crazy results in reducing inflammation, helping heal guts. Magnesium is a foundational product that affects 300 systems in the body. So if people aren't getting magnesium from eating a lot of greens and dark chocolate and all kinds of foods, which would really mean an extremely clean diet, they have a lot of potential dysfunction, dysregulations in their bodies that can lead to, inflammatory responses as well. So it's no longer just about whether or not I believe in supplements. It's can my patients get enough of the nutrients that they need daily from the food that they eat. Is the quality of the food good enough? Are they accessing good quality food? And how can I support them if their diet isn't,
Yeah.
clean as a whistle all the time? And so, there's some work to be done on our end for sure.
And as I mentioned, let's ask our patient. They're going to tell us what they need. And I know one question in my intake on my intake form is, what are their three magic wands? Meaning, what else that they don't think a chiropractor can help? And I'm getting the digestion, I'm getting the IBS, I'm getting the sleep. Then I can start that discussion and say, okay, I've got all these tools. Which one would you like? Self identifying themselves with what they need. And I think sometimes it's that simple to ask them where they see that they need help.
I completely
So
agree. And I
Brandy,
think that the ball is
go
in your
ahead.
court this year. If you want to take advantage of new revenue streams, they're out there. If you want to add in new technology, it's growing at a rapid pace. And, if you want to reevaluate what you're doing with your practice and where you can sort of take advantage of some of these trends, maybe it's time to sit back and take a look at where the growth opportunities are and what you can add in. Because, there's really never been a more exciting time in our industry to financially benefit, but also have aware patients that are looking for more.
Mhm. Especially for the practitioner that have been in practice for a long time, you need some excitement yourself. You need something new. You need something to talk about. I know, I wrote a small book for my patients, and it's coming out in a month. I'm excited. I'm going to have stuff to talk about for 3 months. I personally need the excitement. So sharing that excitement, it's contagious. Your patients are excited to see you and to benefit, and they're very thankful that you're putting all this time and energy to help them. So Brandy, you and I could chat and jam on this for quite some time. How can people get in touch with you if they want to have a good discussion, an evaluation of their practice, and how you can, with your sharp mind, say, you know what, this might be an avenue you want to investigate?
The easiest is to head on over to youridealpatients.com and book a chat. I'm happy to jump on a call, see where you're at, see where the opportunities are, and help direct you in whichever direction makes the most sense for your personal and financial goals for your business.
And as I will personally attest, Brandy is a no BS kind of gal, meaning that she gets right to the point and she has such a great mind to analyze any businesses. I've seen her work on so many project and marketing strategies with her practitioners, and she has many, and then she hasn't tooted her own horn here, but she has many of her clients that are really high profile in the natural health industry, and that the more of us are successful, the bigger of an impact that we can have. So thank you so much, Brandy. Always a pleasure seeing you. Love and appreciate you. So this was Dr. Natalie Boscia for the show Empowering Women in Chiropractic. And again, a big, big thank you to ChiroSecure for putting those shows together. I know I always get a lot out of watching my colleagues and what they're up to, especially now, depending on where you are in the world. The traveling has lessened to a great extent for some of us. So it's always good to recharge by listening to other practitioners doing amazing things in their community. So thank you again. And hopefully you got a lot out of my interview today with Brandy Kinnear, and take her up on her offer. Youridealpatient.com is her website. You can go on there and book a chat with her. So thank you.
Join us each week as we bring you the best in business growth, practice management, social media marketing, networking, leadership, and lots more.
Now,
If it's about women in practice and business, you'll hear it here. We hope you enjoyed this week's Facebook Live event. Please like us on Facebook, comment, and share. We look forward to seeing all of you next week for another episode of Empowering Women in Chiropractic. Now, go ahead and hit the share button and tell your friends and colleagues about the show. Thank you for watching. Have a beautiful day. This has been a Chiro Secure production.
I hate that move. I'm sorry.
Do you have a lot of snow at home, Alan?
So cold.
Well, yeah, I